Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. It is Sunday, so on Sundays we catch up, and we have been baking lately while we've been catching up. So today I have a bunch of the beef trim from Costco. So when I go to Costco, I buy their vacuum packed beef. That is what they turn into their mince, and I turn it into different things that I want, one of those things being mince, but it allows me to hold it. So it's been 3 weeks since we did the groceries, since I came back from the groceries, and because it's vacuum sealed and boxed up, it can sit in the bottom of the fridge in the coldest part of the chest fridge for all that amount of time with no problem. Whereas if I had have bought it as mince, it would have needed to be used, split and frozen, whatever, within 48 hours. So by buying it that way, it means that I can use it how I want. But also sometimes it has some really big pieces that are really good for things like diced beef in beef, like pie fillings or stews and things like that. Sometimes it's all just mince, and that's fine. But Darryl has cut some of that off in the last few days to eat just as a meal, because he doesn't care about the texture of chewy beef and stuff. I can't eat it like that because of my face and things like that. I can't chew things like that. So for me, it's no good for anything unless it's slow cooked or minced, but he can. So, but because we have that to do, so he's opened one of those bags and it needs to be minced up. One of the things I'm going to do is make hamburger rolls, and then we can have hamburgers for dinner. So because it's Sunday, Darryl is also at church with some of the kids. So he'll buy some lettuce and tomato because we don't have any of that at the moment. So he'll buy some lettuce and tomato in town, and then I'll make hamburger buns and we'll have hamburgers for dinner. Now, Darryl and I obviously won't have the buns. We'll just have the hamburger patties with the salads and stuff, but the kids will have it on the buns. So that's what I'm doing this morning. That's what my task for baking this morning is. It's already 9:30. I'm getting a little bit of a late start. I normally try and get these videos filmed earlier so I can get them out about lunchtime on a Sunday, but whatever happens, happens. So I'm going to make my standard brioche rolls. These are on the website because this is what we like for hamburger buns. Now I do need to figure out eventually a better angle for this camera so that you can actually see what I'm doing as well as me talking to you, because I noticed that I end up just looking at what I'm doing a lot of the time, and I don't know that it's the most, pleasant viewing, but this is what we've got at the moment. So my brioche buns are a lightly enriched dough. There's a little bit of cream, a little bit of milk in them. I use coconut milk because the kids are dairy free. I did get asked the other day, do we ever get sick of the taste of coconut and things? We really don't know any difference, so it doesn't make any difference. All right, so we end up with about 900 grams of liquid between the water and the coconut cream. We're going to add some sugar because we want these to be a brioche dough, so the sugar will help them to brown, but it also helps that yeast to activate. So we've got some sugar in there. We've got some yeast in there as well. It's a nice warm day today, so we don't need to overdo any of these sorts of things. And then we're going to add, either add olive oil or ghee. It's personal preference. I've got olive oil sitting here, so I'm just going to do that for today. And then some salt, and then I'm just going to add my flour. Now, I couldn't get baker's flour at Costco, so I've only got plain flour, which is fine. It just means that I have dropped the liquid. I put a little bit less olive oil and stuff in here because plain flour doesn't absorb liquid the same way as baker's flour does. It can be a bit sloppier, where it doesn't absorb as much liquid. Is that right? So if you're using plain flour, you'd normally reduce your liquid, whereas baker's flour, you have this set amount because it absorbs that liquid better. And then I'm just going to get it on the KitchenAid, which you're in the way of, so I'm going to move the camera, but I also need to find my dough hook. I think it's up on the hook over there, so let me grab that. And we're just sticking it on the KitchenAid. Now, I would normally make a double batch of this, but Darryl and I aren't eating them, so I probably won't. I'll probably just leave the single batch. It just means that I got half a tin of coconut cream to do something with, which is fine. I can find something to do with that. Oh, not the right plug. So we're just going to bring this together. Being a lightly enriched dough, it does need a fair bit of kneading. You want it pretty smooth. So this will take 5-10 minutes maybe, depending on just how it goes and, you know, how accurate my measurements and stuff were. So we're going to let that knead for the moment. Now, brioche dough is supposed to be slightly tacky. It is a bit of a wet dough. This is probably a little too wet, but I'm going to run with it because I have the experience with the dough that I think I'll manage with it. It's tacky, but it's not excessively tacky. I'm just going to have to use a fair bit of flour when I shape it and a gentle hand, and I'm going to be okay with it. But more flour. For the average person doing a dough like this, you're going to want to add more flour to it. It will, like, the tackiness of it right this minute will alter as it proofs, because as it proofs, the structure gets better, so it's not quite as tacky, but it's still going to be a fairly difficult to handle dough. I'm going to leave it like this, as I said, because I feel like I've got enough experience to handle the dough as it is, and it's not soup. And once it proofs, it should be fine. But for the average person, I would suggest adding some more flour with that, which is part of the reason why I always struggle with sharing recipes. So I've shared those recipes on, like, the brioche dough on the blog, and people have had some great successes with it, but I'm sure some people have had some fails with it too, because dough is one of those things that it really is dependent on the brand of your flour, it's dependent on the weather at the time, the quality of the water that you're using as well. There's so many variables when it comes to dough, and if you're just straight up following a recipe, then sometimes that's going to cause issues, whereas if you can read the dough as well, then that helps. So I always say you need to sort of keep an eye on the dough as well. But anyway, I'm going to get this in a container to proof, and then I'll come back. All right, so it's in here in the dough container. It comes up to just under 2 quarts, so we want it to double before I handle it, which should be fine because it's nice and warm today. So I'm going to put that aside to do that, and if it's done while I'm still doing this, then I'll shape it and show you and that sort of thing. All right, so what do we need to catch up on today? What's on the cards? And what else do I need to get done while I'm spending time doing this? Do you know what I'm going to do while I talk to you is I'm going to slice onions to put them on to caramelize to have with our burgers tonight, because I don't have any caramelized onions on the shelf. Catch-ups. So, I wanted to share. So I reached out to Bench Foods dehydrators a while back to see if they if I could sign up to their affiliate program, and got approved last week. So they're sending me a dehydrator that I'll get to use and show off to all you guys. So that will be really neat. We may have to run the generator initially to use it. We do have some extra batteries that I got on sale to set up another array, which will take the load off some places and might be suitable for running the dehydrator on. But we need more panels up on the roof for that, and we're actually pretty low on roof space for panels. That's part of our problem, and we don't have any rails at the moment. So we need, because our roof is flat, we have to have rails with legs on them to get the solar panels to be sort of like, it's 15 degrees is approximately the angle that we need the solar panels, and that allows it to get the largest amount of sun if it's north facing, 15 degrees, largest amount of sun in this particular point of the world. You can change them. Some people change them between summer and winter because the angle changes of the directionality of the sun passing over. So sometimes I can't remember, I think it's a taller angle, so like up to almost 30 degrees in winter is optimal, and then back down to the 15 for summer, I think. Don't quote me on that. But we just have them as a static height because we don't have the capabilities of changing them as such. So we have a little bit of roof space that we think we can adapt to allow for some more panels, but we need more rails for them, so we haven't done that yet. Anyway, side note, so we have some batteries here that we got cheap, some lithium ones. We haven't got any lithium banks elsewhere. All our other banks are gel lead acid, but we got some lithium ones to give a go and set up, but we need panels to suit it first. And then once we've got that, we might have the ability to run the generator on one of the banks rather than having to use the generator, but we'll see. It just means that if I am going to run it on the generator, I make sure that I do a full load of something when I run it. So that's exciting anyway. I believe that that's in transit, so hopefully that will arrive sometime this week and I'll be able to get that set up. I do have a bulk meat order arriving next Friday too. So when I did the last lot of groceries, I actually underbought a little bit so that I could have enough funds to do a bulk meat order later on in the period. So it'll actually be about 4 weeks in by the time it arrives. I think we're 3 weeks in now, so it'll be 4 weeks in when we get the bulk meat order. And some of the stuff there is stuff to use for like there's some eye round which we'll use for making roast deli meat, roast beef in the smoker for, like, you know, thin sliced beef, but it could also be used to cut thin for jerky as well. So there is that. So we might give that a go, but the kids love a lot of things done in the dehydrator. One of their favorite things is apple rings done in a, like a, you cut them into the rings, you core them, and then you dip them in a maple lemon sort of a mix to stop them browning, but also give them a tiny bit of sweetness. And then you dip them in desiccated coconut, and then you dehydrate them. That is one of the kids' favorite snacks. So we might do a load of those. Lots of things to use a dehydrator for. So that's cool. The other thing that they reached out to me is the Soul exercise bikes. And so they're the exercise bikes that have the big screen, and you can have the app hooked up to the screen, and then you can run, like, trails and stuff, and the bike adjusts its the word is escaping me, the tension on it, so that it's harder to ride, whatever that word is, so that when you, like, on the screen, when it looks like you're riding up a hill, then it's harder to pedal and things like that. So that's really cool. And I probably won't use it, but it was more for Darryl and the kids if they want to. But because Darryl's doing the whole carnivore thing, and he's hit his little bit of a stall at the moment where he's sort of hit the weight that he wants to hit, that's fine, but he's hit a bit of a stall where the carnivore and that is not going to do anything more without some added things like some exercise and stuff like that. So we had been looking at exercise bikes. Every time I went down to Brisbane, I had looked on Marketplace to see if there was anything cheap around about where I was going to be and things like that, and just hadn't found anything suitable. So when they reached out, I thought that was pretty amazing. So at the moment, we are rearranging some space so that we can put the bike somewhere accessible and easily, and so that I can film using it and things like that, so that we can give it a go. The screen on the bike also articulates, so you can turn it away from where you're riding, and the app apparently has other sort of exercises and stuff with it. So I thought Sonnet would probably enjoy doing some of that. Even the boys, maybe they might have some yoga and things like that on there that they might enjoy doing. So we want to have it in a space that's appropriate, that there is enough room to be able to do that, like to put a yoga mat down near the screen and all that sort of thing. So we have that arriving when it arrives, and I will share that, which is pretty cool. What else have we got going on? We bought a little mini 3D printer. Just a little cheap one, a Bamboo Labs one, because Darryl is doing the D&D stuff with, like, we've always done the D&D stuff, but he's expanding on what he's doing, and he's trying to look at running some games potentially in town with some kids and things like that, and the idea of being able to make some of our own little miniatures to use in those games is really exciting. It's something that he really wanted to give a go, and then the thought was that I can also make little miniatures of all my little critters, and Sonnet, who really loves making jewelry and stuff like that, might be able to make some of her own beads and other sort of things to do with that. So and Kavik was doing 3D rendering on Blender as one of his extracurricular activities for a while, because he really liked the idea of making 3D models in Blender and stuff. So they all are interested in it. So we thought it was worth the investment as part of that. It wasn't expensive, and it came out of business expenses and things like that. We managed to cover it. And we have the potential to make money off it if that's what we want, but also it's school resources too. It's one of those things. Some people are going to sit there and go, I shouldn't really be buying it, but it's one of the things that school resources are something that we spend a lot of money on. A lot of people sort of sit there and go, you homeschool, you save money and all that sort of thing. And yes, you can, especially because you're not buying uniforms and all that sort of stuff. But we do put a lot of investment into resources and learning sources and subscriptions and all that sort of thing for the kids too, because I want them to have the access to whatever interests them, so that then they can build on their learning whilst also enjoying what they're learning. So the 3D printer was something that I thought some of the kids would really enjoy, but also that has the potential for earnings, and Darryl was really keen on looking at, and there was a bunch of different reasons. So we got it anyway. So when we get that set up, we'll sort that out. Part of what we're rearranging to put the bike in is so that we can pull the laser engraver table is actually in our bedroom at the moment. It's Darryl built me that table. It's a really solid table, and the 3D printer needs a nice level, solid, non-moving surface, and it's probably the best. So we're going to bring that out of the bedroom and set it up near the back doors, but it means rearranging my seedling shelves, and the cats are still, sort of in that space too. Let me grab some more onions. Caramelised onions are super time consuming, so if I'm going to do them, I may as well do a bunch of them. And I'll do them all in a cast iron pan. What else? Oh, the cats. So Toothless is one of the older rescue kittens, but all of the cats were sort of very standoffish when they went to the vet, which is where we picked them up from. So very minimal sort of checking or anything was done on them, because they need to settle in first. So we brought them home, and the intent is to take them back to the vet to be desexed when they were appropriately sort of there. A duck is probably the biggest, and he's male, and he is due for desexing. We're looking to do that shortly. But the other Toothless is the little black one, and she's very dainty and female, very dainty little cat, and I'm guessing older than we expected, because she's just gone on heat. Now luckily the cats are all in separate containers, and that's fine. They can all get to each other through the bars, but they can't actually. There's trucks driving on the street. So there's no risk of her getting pregnant, because she can't get access to anyone, and we weren't going to let them out of the cages until they were desexed anyway, because we wanted to make sure that that wasn't an issue. But she is making a lot of noise and keeping me up at night, and it's unpleasant. It was not my idea of fun having a cat on heat. And now we have to wait for it to pass before we can get it desexed. So there's that unfortunate, but it's, we couldn't tell the age of the cats. The vets couldn't give them a good look over because they weren't handleable. And she's smaller, like she's dainty, really tiny little cat. So obviously she's just a smaller breed of cats. They're rescues. We don't know what they are, so we'll see. But yes, once she comes off heat, we'll have to get her and Duck desexed. That's the next plan. And then after that, we will look at Panda and Sinatra, because they're younger again. So we'll get them done in groups, and then hopefully be able to let them out of the cages around the house a bit more. we can't close the house as such, which makes it difficult. They have to be very heavily supervised even when in the house, because our house doesn't really close up. There is no solid doors in a lot of places, and cats are escapees. So whenever they're out of their cages, they have to be dogged to make sure that they don't go anywhere, that we lose them or they get out until such time as we get them desexed and, you know, more people related. They definitely know when dinner time is, so that's something we've enforced heavily, so that we hope that if any did happen to get out, they would be back for dinner. But at the moment, we're still keeping them caged up, and just lots of contact as we can. And now we need to get Toothless desexed before she can even be considered to be let out. So that's the cats at the moment. Someone asked for updates on the chooks too. So the chook pens are still an in-progress thing. We are extending the U-shape out into the back, and we have to create a bit of a walkway. At the moment, that walkway isn't there. So the turkeys are actually behind the current chook pens. My eyes have just started watering. I got out of that pretty well, I reckon. That was a fair bit of onions before my eyes started watering. The chicken pens, yes. So the turkeys are actually behind the chicken pens. You have to walk around the chicken pens to get to them at the moment. Nothing, and that we've done a trial of the new metal struts for the roofing on the turkey pens and stuff, but it's all just a bit of a mess at the moment. So once we get that sorted, I will take you guys out for a tour again. We also have to pick up some more hay. So we buy bales of old season hay from a gentleman at Pittsworth. We buy trailerfuls, and we have run out at the moment. So we need, before the weather starts cooling down too much, we need to get another trailer load of hay so that we can cover all the ground in all the chicken pens, because they get to the point where they just end up bare sand, which is fine, but it's not warm. So we have been losing a few chooks lately. We don't tend to process our old hens. So the hens that we raise for egg raising, we allow them to pass normally, naturally, of old age, however you want to put it, because we let them lay for as long as they will, because you can process your hens at like 12 months old or 18 months old or whatever, because their laying does slow down. But we don't. We just let them keep on laying, and they can lay for 3, 4, 5 years. They just slow down a little bit, and that's fine. We are happy to have larger flocks with less egg layers if that's what it takes. That's just our preference. Yes, it costs more in food and all that sort of thing, but that's how we do it. So we are losing some of the oldest batch of hens at the moment. And hens are one of those things that they just go downhill all of a sudden and then they pass. So we find some, as the weather cools off, we tend to find a few that just haven't made it through a night or something like that, and the kids bury them, and we have a section of the property where they get buried eventually. I'm looking to plant some more fruit trees or something there where they are. So our older girls are starting to pass, and the younger girls are starting to lay more. So we're going to, as we rearrange the pens, as we rebuild that back section of the pen and things like that, we will alter the ratios of hens in the different pens and stuff too. So that's all on the cards, and then decide, once we've got all that, then that gives me a better idea of how many I want to hatch next year too. So that's always a good thing. So I'm just going to add some ghee to these. Oh, it's cool enough that it's solid. Wasn't expecting that. I need a spoon. Add some ghee to these and get these on the stove. Last thing I just thought of before I finish up, my mic's really low power. I mustn't have plugged it in last night, and I need to show you Lamington as well. But I've got this half tin of coconut cream here, so I'm going to do a really quick couple of ice creams up for the kids in the Ninja Creamy. So I've just split the two. Let me change the angles for this one. I've just split the two coconut creams into there. The kids opened one of the jars of fruit puree the other day thinking it was jam, and it's not. So I'm going to put half of that in each. So these are it's just blueberries and strawberries pureed and canned with a tiny little bit of sugar. Then I'm going to add some Greek yogurt. So sort of two-thirds of a cup Greek yogurt. Spatula. So about 2/3 of a cup of Greek yogurt in each. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split, so that we've got some sweetness in here, I'm going to split one of these low sugar jelly bases between the two, because I've heard that it gives some really nice texture to the creamy, which makes sense because it's gelatin, and I use gelatin in my ice creams quite regularly. So we're going to split them between the two, and I'm going to top them up with a bit of water, and I'm going to get my blender and blend it through, and this should be a nice treat for the kids in ice cream. So I'm going to blend that, stick it in the freezer, and they can mix it up for ice cream. If I remember, I will show you what it looks like mixed up. Other than that, I've got the onions going and I've got the dough going, so I'm going to walk you guys out to talk to Lamington, and then I'll probably put this on charge, and then I'll come back and show you the buns. So our yard is a bit of a mess as per usual, and of course as soon as I come out here we have puppy dogs as well, but Lamington is shedding at the moment. Other than that, Missy, Bear, enough, Bear, enough. She stays out here, Bear, she stays out here with the dogs, and sleeps out here with them and stuff, and she's happy little Lammy. Sonnet quite enjoys sitting here and helping her shed, and she's been collecting the bits of wool that come off her. Darryl sort of says she's got her own personal tribble, so she gets lots of attention. And yeah, so that's what she's doing at the moment, is living out here with the puppy dogs who adore her. Being a sheep, she's not particularly active except when it's dinner time. So as much as I say I'll show you to her, but she's more a sheep than a lamb. And so therefore she spends most of her time just sitting. Sometimes the dogs snuggle up with her. I'd imagine in winter they probably will. She sleeps on the bench underneath the bathroom window at night time. And you hear her yelling in the background regularly. Most of the time that's because it's mealtime. So anyway, so that's about it from me. I'm going to charge my stuff up now. My dough is almost doubled, so I'm going to charge it for say 15 minutes, and then I'll come out and I'll shape the hamburger doughs and hamburger buns, and then I'll finish all this up and get it edited and put out. So thank you for joining me again on another Sunday chat, and I will see you on the next one.